and welcome to Diecast Restos with me, Jason. I have another duo of Matchbox castings up for restoration this week in the form of the 62D Rat Rod Dragster and the 8F Wildcat Dragster. Both models have interesting pasts and quirks about them, which I'll dive into shortly. Neither model is in a particularly bad state, just pretty play-worn. The Rat Rod has lost its towing hook, which I'm really not fussed about, especially as it looks like a clean break. Each of these brightly coloured models will allow me to test a couple of new paint colours out, so I'm excited for that. I've picked up some reproduction waterslide decals for each, which match the remnants of what is left on the sides. The Wildcat Dragster arrived in the Superfast series in 1970 and left in 1975, replaced by the De Tomaso Pantera. The Rat Rod also arrived in 1970 and was succeeded by the Renault 17TL in 1974. Here's how both castings looked when new, and I'll be aiming to closely match these original colours today. So here is a real 1965 Mustang fastback based dragster that I found a photo of online. And funnily enough, here is a Wildcat 1967 Mercury Cougar dragster. It's often been noted by collectors that the Wildcat name on the Mustang rather than the Cougar was a huge missed opportunity. I'll start with the history of the Mustang model, as the original tooling first entered the Matchbox line earliest in 1966. I've only very recently completed a restoration and custom video on 3 Mustang models, so head on over to that video to get the full background on the model and the real Mustang. The 8E Mustang was converted to Lesney's new low-friction wheeled Superfast lineup in 1970, resulting in models having their steering system removed. Base plates were modified to accept the new larger wheel varieties. These lasted until 1970. The tooling was again modified to transform the Mustang into the Wildcat Dragster. The hood was modified to fit a large V8 engine poking through it. The casting lines for the doors were smoothed over to allow the Wildcat decals to be affixed easily. And the base plate was again modified to fit the larger rear wheels. This is why the base actually reads Wildcat Dragster instead of Ford Mustang. Early issues were painted bright pink and had the square black Wildcat silhouette labels on an orange background fitted. Larger volume production saw the colour change to Dayglow orange over pink primer. Like my example, the colour on both models readily faded by exposure to light or chemicals. The Wildcat labels were modified in 1971 or 1972 to an orange Cougar on a yellow background with a black surround. Black base plates were standard for the model, but don't be surprised to find them in whatever colours were going on the factory floor. These include but were not limited to metallic green, yellow, gloss green and orange. Sometimes they would even be painted with a mixture of colours. Anyway, let's now strip the remnants of paint from these castings. I restored a 62C a long time ago. It's probably my favourite 1/75 era casting. When I get hold of another, I'd certainly love to revisit it. But for now, the Rat Rod will do nicely. The 62C arrived in 1968, replacing the TV service van. It was quite a late addition to the regular wheels era of Matchbox. The very early cream painted run are extremely rare and valuable, as the colour was quickly replaced by metallic lime green. It carried over all of its features to the Superfast line in late 1969, except for its auto steer system. It lasted for only 1 year before the modifications were made to the tooling to turn it into the 62D Rat Rod Dragster. Again, the bonnet was modified to allow for the large V8 to expose itself. The opening doors were sealed shut and the sides smoothed to allow for the Rat Rod decals. The base plate was modified to fit the new wheels, but not so much so that it warranted a change in name. It still carried the Mercury Cougar name on the base, unlike the 8F. First run models were painted in Dayglow yellow clear coat over white primer. This later became a lime colour. Like the Wildcat, this casting was prone to paint fade. Unlike the Wildcat, its decals remain the same throughout production. It also kept the original transparency, where the Wildcats were coloured in translucent green. The bases were mostly plated metal, except for a short late run of silver painted ones. Neither model received any additional trim. The Mustang lost its trim detailing on conversion to the Superfast line, while the Cougar never had any to begin with. The plated base that provides the grille detailing proved to be enough. I'll be true to form and stick to factory spec on these two, though the Mustang's beautifully cast body cuts through well enough without the need to highlight it. Now on goes the first of my two new paint acquisitions. I'm relying on Tamiya's polycarbonate line to do the job for me today. I'm really happy with the shade of this fluorescent pink straight from the can. Being polycarbonate, I'm aware that this will dry flatter with a matte finish and certainly won't look this glossy. Fluoro yellow is the choice for the Rat Rod. I think this is an even better shade and match than the pink. And the base of the Wildcat will be returned to its original gloss black, nothing fruity here. With all of the parts needing paint receiving their first coat, I turned my attention to washing up the plastic parts. Also included was the base of the Rat Rod for a quick rinse before polishing. While I do that, I'll leave you in peace for a moment. Next, each of the now clean transparencies are polished with Polywatch Scratch Remover to buff out those small imperfections in the plastic. They are then dunked in Astonish wood floor polish to restore their shine. Each of the axles have any surface rust removed using this grinding stone attachment. I then again use my rotary tool with a polishing wheel attachment to polish up the plated metal base, which has been coated with Autosol. Any leftover polish is removed with the clean buffing pad. Just look how much more shiny and reflective that base plate is now, in particular that grille. Here you can see quite how matte that polycarbonate spray paint looks when dry. If I were to apply decals to a polycarbonate painted model again, I would clear coat twice, once before decal application and once after. This is because the rougher finish is claggy, causing the decal not to adhere quite as easily or effectively as on a glossy finish. It didn't in this case, but I was fearful it might give the decals a rough finish. As ever, I will leave links to the decal source in the video description. Both sets were very accurate, high quality reproductions. Here's a closer look at them as I top them with some Mr. Mark softer solution. Each engine has been pretty significantly scuffed, revealing the colour of the plastic beneath. Handily, the Rat Rod's was green plastic and the Wildcat's orange, so they were colour coded despite being identical and could be returned to the original owner. Molotochrome paint pens were used to return them back to how they originally looked. After all 8 wheels are washed in Citadel Gloss Nuln Oil, Each cast body receives the clear coat that they were crying out for. The wheel foils are treated with mollichrome too, before the already chrome coated engines can be reacquainted with the castings. So let's put the rat rod back together first. With the engine already in situ, the transparency follows. This isn't riveted in, unlike the regular wheels model. The interior piece follows, hooking over the rivet post where the tow hook should be. And lastly, the base connects at the front using the grille and is secured at the rear rivet post. It's much the same for the Wildcat Dragster. There's a notch in the roof to prevent the transparency from sliding around, while the interior piece also connects to the casting using the rear rivet post and present tow hook. The base is secured with a screw at each front and rear rivet post. This is how my pair of dragsters looked earlier. Both were in a pretty play-worn state, with no real casualties aside from the missing tow hook. Boo-hoo. However, they looked ripe for restoration with those scratched and faded paint jobs. These two were some of my favourite early Superfast efforts. They were outlandish enough to stand out before Lesney took it too far with some truly awful fantasy models. So let's see how these dragsters look now. I'm really pleased with the paint match on the Cougar. Tamiya's fluoro yellow is very similar to the original Lesney shade. It's looking a lot healthier with a polished windscreen and re-chromed V8. The pink is a bit more vibrant than the original Wildcat Dragster, but that is the drawback of using rattle cans, sadly. Still, it's an awesome, bright and fun colour. Each set of decals look very nice and crisp and are exact copies of the initial designs. And that rat rod grille looks as good as ever after a polish, one of the best parts of the Cougar casting. At the outro, I show off each model next to their Genesis castings, the 8D Mustang and the 62C Cougar respectively. Make sure you stick around for that and do vote in the comments for your favourite. Is it the Wildcat Mustang or is it the Rat Rod Cougar? Don't forget to like and subscribe, but all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.